Greetings and salutations! This is MazezRealm once again, and this is the third episode of my Call of Duty Throwback series. And in this series, I am going to be covering Call of Duty 3. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be covering so much shit that you're going to basically have to gather yourself, get some popcorn popping, and maybe a few drinks, because this is going to be a long commentary with a lot of stuff to cover. So I hope that I get a chance to cover it all in this episode, because this is the only episode I'm going to be doing for Call of Duty 3. So I'm going to jump right in and do my best to get this commentary on the road here. So, without further ado, I am going to jump right in, as I said before. Now, I'm just going to quickly go over the class loadouts in Call of Duty 3, because they were very unique in this particular game. And later on, during the rest of the gameplay, you will see some more loadouts with more unique properties to them. And I will be going over those unique properties when that portion of the gameplay comes up. But until then, I'm going to be talking about the current loadout that I'm using, and that is the Thompson submachine gun, which, of course, as you guys have seen on all my other Call of Duty Throwback series episodes, I really like the Thompson. So, of course, I'm using it in this game as well. And with the light assault class that I'm using now, they had a unique bit of equipment in the bouncing betties. Now, the bouncing betties were unique to this class in that you could just plant them anywhere you wanted, and no other class could use those. Only the light assault. So that was a really unique aspect to using this class, along with also the anti-tank grenades, the sticky grenades that they had in this game as well. Now, in Treyarch's first installment of Call of Duty, which was this one here, it had a lot of new things added to it. Some of the new things that they added were the ranking system. You can actually rank up in this game, which was unique to the franchise. And this particular installment, they had never added that. So that was one thing that they added. And also another thing that they added was bolt action rifles without scopes, as you just saw me picking up one here. And that was very unique. They had not done that in multiplayer until Call of Duty 3. So that was a really cool element, because I'm a huge fan of bolt action rifles without scopes. I really enjoyed using those. So that was another thing that they added to this. Another thing that you've definitely seen on the gameplay that I hadn't mentioned yet was sprinting. They did add sprinting to this game. Now, granted, it was not as fluid as it is in the current installments of Call of Duty. However, it was a game changer in that it made the gameplay a lot more fast-paced than it ever was. And another thing that made this game a lot more fast-paced was the environments that they chose to put you in. A lot of close quarters combat and a lot of buildings and cover. So sprinting was actually a really cool element that Treyarch added to Call of Duty 3. There were other things, game mechanics that they added that were unique, and some of them were good, some of them were bad. One of them that I didn't care for was the hazy zoom-in levels for accurate weapons. I guess they did that to balance it out a little bit, but when you would zoom in and there was, for example, a light pole or something in front of you, it made it so that you would basically, it would just make it very fuzzy and hazy, so you wouldn't see it with clarity. And that was, I guess, to add balance to the bolt action and the sniper rifles in close quarters. Now, I don't know what it is with Treyarch, but they really tried to listen to the audience, and literally just try to improve certain elements of the gameplay, and that's a good thing. However, Treyarch also has the issue in that they overcompensate and basically just nerf things to the point where they're really easy and not as much fun to use. And the reason why I'm going over those things is because, as you saw in that previous gameplay of me sniping, quick scoping was very difficult to do, and sniping in general was made more difficult. Another thing that Treyarch added to their gameplay was friendly fire, as you see here. Now, that was realistic, but it was also very annoying because you had stupid teammates like that over there who would just have fun shooting at me in my back just so he could revive me and do it again. So I killed him, and of course he was bitching, because that's what kids do. They basically find things, game mechanics, and exploit them and make it unbearable. So that's one thing that I hated about Call of Duty 3. Now granted, since they had dedicated servers in this particular installment of Call of Duty, you could actually host your own lobby and edit that out. So you could at least take out friendly fire so that wouldn't happen. And generally the ones that would shoot the teammates on purpose were the medics, because they would get extra points for reviving. However, they would also lose points for killing their teammates. So it was kind of a wash, and I didn't understand why people would do it. But it was part of, you know, the game, and that was what made it one of the most frustrating Call of Duties, in my opinion. It wasn't the most frustrating Call of Duty, and trust me when I say that I will go over that on my upcoming series, or upcoming episodes, and I will definitely let you know what made it the most frustrating. But that's for another episode. And there were a lot of other frustrating, mechanics to the game in Call of Duty 3. One of the very frustrating things, and in this particular installment, were vehicles.
Those bastards got one of our guys!
Yes, vehicles. This was the first Call of Duty to implement vehicles. And they did it in the best way they possibly could by adding non-lethal vehicles and lethal vehicles. But the issue that I found with having so many vehicles in this game were just the size of the maps. They weren't large enough. They weren't Battlefield. Treyarch tried way too hard to make this game cater to the Battlefield fans that were currently being a little bit more expensive in the Battlefield franchise. They had a lot more fans in this particular time period. In 2006, they had some really good Battlefield games, and Call of Duty 3 was trying very hard to compete with that, and did okay, but the sales weren't as good as the previous Call of Duty. So, you know, it was Square tried to do too much in one installment of the game, and it was cool at first because it was never seen, but it was also overwhelming and somewhat hard to balance out, and it made it very difficult to balance it because of that. But luckily, you could evade these vehicles, and they made classes specific for destroying vehicles. They had an anti-tank class that was basically just a bazooka and a sidearm. And it was strictly for support. And that was a good class to destroy tanks. There were other classes that enabled you to actually to destroy tanks that had grenade launchers that you could have, and that would damage vehicles quite a bit as well. And those were great aspects of the game. One other thing that you just saw here in this particular death that I just had were light machine guns with bipods. Now, it was cool because the light machine guns were very inaccurate from the hip, which was good because they used that to balance them out. However, it made the light machine guns completely overpowered because the bipod, all you would have to do is hit the left trigger, and basically you were drop shooting with high lethality and damage, and it just made it impossible to counter. So light machine guns were absolutely overpowered in this game when we were in a fight. And on the contrary to that, sniper rifles, as you see me here sniping, were very underpowered and were nerfed completely in comparison to those in Call of Duty 2. However, be it as it may, sniping is very rewarding in this game because of the map layout. If you did get a sniper shot off, it was rewarding to get the actual kill. But somehow Treyarch found it impossible to make the sniper rifles not have an unbearable sway when you would first scope in. And they nerfed it in that aspect. But sniping was still fun because of the equipment that they gave you to use as a sniper. And that was the mortar strikes. The mortar strikes were unique to the sniper loadout. And they were a game changer because you could call in mortars to flush out vehicles or destroy vehicles and enemy troops, and then it would give you the ability to use the sniper rifle to actually pick them off at long range after you take them out of the building. So that helped a lot with the sway and all that stuff because of the fact that you could flush people out with your mortars and then take your time with the shots and pick them off at long range. So that made sniping a little bit more bearable. Now the downside to the mortars were the actual time that it took to recharge the mortars. They took so long that you would only see them maybe twice in a match. And the matches in this Call of Duty were unbearably long. They were so long. I mean, you think Battlefield's matches are long? Hell no. These matches were very long for how fast-paced the gameplay was in this game. Some of the times I would just quit because the team was terrible and it would just take long to find enemies and to find enemies, but to actually get that game-winning score. It just took such a long time. And that made this game just get really boring for me and frustrating because it took long to rank up and it took long to get kills in certain matches like these, for example. and to get the score limit. So those are some of the aspects of the gameplay that were just simply very frustrating. And Treyarch did do a good job of making the franchise very unique and different at the same time. They added so many different things that it made the franchise fresh to some extent from what it was before. But some of those changes were just not the best, in my humble opinion. And they definitely made up for it later on when they released their best title, in my opinion, World at War. And I will definitely be covering that on a later episode. And that was by far my favorite Treyarch installment, and it still is to date. Loved World at War. This one would definitely have to be my least favorite out of the Treyarch installments of Call of Duties. Unfortunately, because Treyarch really did have a lot of good things in this particular installment, but they also had more downsides to it, so it made it more frustrating. And to be honest, I never got the achievement for reaching the highest rank in this Call of Duty, just because I got bored. I got bored and frustrated, and I said, you know what? It's not worth it. So I did have quite a bit of hours of gameplay in this particular Call of Duty, but again, I got bored, and I went back to Call of Duty 2 Big Red One. And basically, that is my opinion on Call of Duty 3. Now, I'm pretty sure that the next episode of my Throwback series will definitely be the one you guys are looking forward to, and that is the one that I'm going to be covering, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I cannot wait to do that episode, and I will be looking forward to seeing you guys then. So until next time, peace, I'm out.